everybody. This is Emily Korsch. I'm the USARA social media captain. And I have another field report for you from ARGeorgia's The Bear 24 Hour. So today right now we get to talk to Team Arc Azul #1. And they've got a really interesting story. So Jeff and Keria, would you please introduce yourselves and your team, your total team?
Hi. Keria Galan from Arc Azul 1.
Jeff Bates, Arc Azul 1, team captain.
And then who else did you race with?
Cale Yarbrough.
Awesome. And then you met Cale at Eco-Challenge Fiji, is that right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so
how did you, explain.
So we raced in Fiji, obviously under Team Nika. Keria was the TAC and I was the team captain. And while we were there, we hung out and really got to know Team Unbroken. Really got to be good friends with the team. And so when we got back to the States, we stayed in contact with them. And when we started thinking about putting another team together, we really wanted to race with them. So formed a new team called Team Arc Azul, which is the 2 of us, and then it's the 3 guys from Team Unbroken. So it's Cale and Hal and Keith. And so we did the race. Yeah, we did the race as Arc Azul 1 and 2. Hal wanted to race with his son, so he was Arc Azul 2, and we were Arc Azul 1.
That's
and so
great.
We bonded back in Fiji because Cale was a TAC and I was the TAC as well. So I don't drink coffee, but that morning when we got back from the start line, him and I were staring at the mess that was left, and we're like, we have to clean this up to get to the first campsite. And we just sat there going, oh my gosh, it's gonna rain soon, it's all gonna be muddy. And he looked over at me and said, hey, he's like, do you want coffee? And I'm like, yes, you speak English, I'm coming over to your tent, we're going to have a cup of coffee. So we're grabbing my mug. I walked over and we sat there and washed our dirty dishes and just hung out. We promised each other that we would kind of like look out for one another until our teams were out of the race. So that's how Team Nika and Team Unbroken became like one unit out of like the race.
Yeah, nice. That's so neat that you kind of had that, you met in Fiji and had that bond, and then were able to kind of stay in touch and then do an adventure race together here in the U.S. That's so neat. So why did you pick the Bear? Why did you pick the Bear as your race that you were going to do?
Well, there obviously hasn't been that many adventure races over the summer, so it was a little limited, but that was really, this is one of the first races, and, I've been an adventure racer for a while, so, I know Jeff and Hunter, and I've raced in a couple of other of their races. I always do a great job, and so when this one came up, it's perfect for us, 24 hours, so it's going to really test us as a team, and it's in Georgia, which is kind of a central location for all of us. We all sort of live in the southeast United States, but so Georgia was a good central location where we come together and do a race together. Nice.
So you guys are actually driving back from the race right now. Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Yes. So we're driving.
It was supposed to be yesterday, but there was a delay due to Mother Nature. So here we are now, a day later.
Right. Awesome. I just think it's so cool for, thanks for taking time out of your road trip. And I mean, I see the bikes in the back and got all your gear back there. So
it smells lovely in here. It smells like adventure racing in here. It's nice. It's a nice scent.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I've got a raindrop on my camera there. Okay. I'm experiencing a little bit of rain here, but I'm just going to power through like a true adventure racer. Okay. So how'd the race go? Did you get all the checkpoints? Do you know your time? How'd it go out there?
So overall, I think it went great. I mean, this was our first race together, so there was a lot of just learnings from that and just sort of getting to know each other. But overall, I mean, the most important thing I thought is we worked well as a team. That's something you can't train for. So we got together
Mhm.
and worked together well. There's always things to work on, but overall, I thought we did good. We didn't clear the course. That was a tough course, man.
Mhm.
We did leave some CPs out there. We finished just under the time limit, like I think 30 minutes to spare. So we sort of tried to get as
Yeah.
many as we could, under the time limit. Yeah. So.
Awesome. And Keria, so since you were the TAC, was this your first adventure race participating, or have you done some before?
I've only done 2 others before. A 4-hour one and then a 12-hour one.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of like me just tagging along before, just for the fun of it, just watching, Team Nika train and me like, okay, like let me be the outside like observer and like watching you guys work as the teams together when you guys are out there, and I'll give you pros and cons of like your team bonding. So for me back then, I was watching them train, even though like I was partaking in all the activities, I was not really like in like race mode. So when he decided that we're gonna now build a new team, and I'm like, well, it was kind of like Pandora's box opened up, and I'm like, I bought in now. Like I want to do this. Like I had so much fun.
Right.
So
like, let me add it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So when the guys were like, yeah, let's form a new team, and I was like, okay, like we are doing this. And to be honest, I wasn't nervous, and I think because of the fact that I have so much confidence in the guys that I felt that everything was gonna be fine. But being the fact that it was Cale and I, we were just hungry for this. We're like, we're so ready. We're so ready to race. So it was kind of like me having Cale and I as tax, now joining a captain and trusting him that he's going to get us to all the points. We're like, okay, like you do your thing. But I was telling Cale, I'm like, hey, like I know we're taxed, but I'm like, we did this. We survived 24 hours.
Yeah. And not just 24 hours of an easy thing, like 24 hours of a really serious course.
Yeah. And like I love running, and I had a conversation with myself, I don't know how many times out there in the course, saying, is it easier to run a marathon than to do this? And I think by the time that I got to like myself asking like 4 or 5 times, I'm like, I think a marathon is much easier. Even though you're out there suffering for 3 to 4 hours, I was like, yeah, running is so much easier.
Right. Well, a lot less unknown. When you're dealing with, you exactly know the length of the course, you know where to go, and an adventure race just kind of takes all that and throws it out the window, and then you're, you against a very big, wild course. Okay, so did you, what was your experience out there? Did you have any food or gear that was like a big win, or I'm never going to do that again experience, or do you have any funny stories from the course?
One thing is we're from Florida, and that's where we train in Florida, and those mountains were no joke, for sure. 4,000 or 5,000 feet, I guess, or whatever. Some people from Colorado probably think they're small, but for us, that was a lot of elevation. Hikes up some of those for sure. That was challenging for, I know, the 2 of us, and for really our whole team. So that made it really, it made it fun though, because you're speeding down the backside of them at 35 miles an hour. That's a little scary too.
It really feels like a roller coaster. Like you're flying, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, and now it's slow. Okay.
And it was a little challenging because we were there, and the whole time we thought we were going to do the canoe was going to be the last thing, but because of what happened with postponing the race, everything flipped, and so the canoe was the first thing. So we had to just sort of reorganize our stuff a little bit for that, and just change our game plan a little. Just a couple things like that, that came up.
Yeah, we did the race backwards, basically.
Yeah, that sounded like, just kind of paying attention from remotely from my house here, seeing that the permit had to get changed at the last minute, and it sounded like ARGeorgia really pulled out this huge accomplishment to, keep the race in play and just basically have you guys do the course backwards. I'm sure it made the checkpoint tracking a little bit more challenging, especially overnight. since you had to count backwards, basically.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it seems like they're, go ahead.
Jeff did an awesome job just to still have the race.
Like, I'm in awe of how they were able to talk to the state and like, no, we're going ahead with this, but we're doing it backwards. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Genius maneuver. Well done, ARGeorgia.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a great job.
So do you have any like takeaways from this race that you're going to work on when you get home to Florida, or do you have a next race picked out already, or kind of what's up next for you?
So we are, I think we're going to do the Light or Not is a smaller race in Florida. It's an 8-hour in October. I think we're going to do that one. And then we really want to do the C2C. I've done that race before. That's a great race. And Jeff once again does a great job with that race. So really want to do that race. He still has some spots open for that one as well. So that'd be a nice 3-day expedition.
We have a phone down.
Sorry.
A phone is down. Can we get on the radio?
It survived. It survived.
Yeah. Thank you, Bear. You saved the phone. All right, last question for you guys. Do you have any sponsor team shout outs or any family shout outs that you want to, take your USARA interview and shine some light on anybody?
I just want to give a shout out to our other team members, Cale and Hal, and Hal's son. So Hal's 13-year-old son raced with us. He's never done a race before, and he did an awesome job. Colt is his name, and so our other 3 team members, we got along great. Everybody was happy, and we stayed in good moods. Nobody yelled at each other, and that's an accomplishment over a 24-hour race. We were all happy at the end. So.
And I think we met so many other different people over the course that had never done a race before, but because they saw Eco, they were like, we're going to do this. And that was like nice to hear that people who never had heard of adventure racing, that Eco, inspired them to come out and do this race.
So we had a funny story that I have to tell too, which is if you know Cale, the person that was on our team, he looks maybe a little bit like Hunter, not really though. But when we were we were probably 20 hours in, maybe like 18 hours into the race, the 8-hour race people were starting to pass us to start their race. Mm-hmm. And a dad and a little kid, probably like 10 years old.
He's 11.
11, okay, came by, and you could tell they were sort of talking to themselves. And then the kid came over and said, Hunter, could I get your autograph? I really loved watching you on the Eco-Challenge.
Oh, the cutest.
So, yeah, it was the cutest thing ever. So we were like, well, he's not Hunter, but we all were actually on the Eco-Challenge. And so you'll probably see Hunter at the finish line. And he was like, his dad said, that's the only reason he wanted to do this. He saw Hunter on the Eco-Challenge, and he's wanted to do a bench race ever since. That's just an awesome testament to the sport, the event, and what Eco-Challenge has done for the sport too, which is really cool, So.
Right.
And it was really neat at the very end. We saw him come in.
Oh, yeah.
We saw him come into the finish line, and we're telling Hunter the story.
Yeah.
And so Hunter, we're like, oh my God, there's the kid. You must go say hi to him. And so as soon as Hunter goes over, he's like, hey, high five. This boy's smile was from ear to ear. Yeah. He was so excited.
That was really cool. That was a really neat moment. Yeah.
That's great. And that's, it's so encouraging for the sport of adventure racing to see, kids getting inspired and parents getting inspired right along with them. It's like what we all love to see is families being active together. So that's great. Thank you so much. I hope you have a safe drive the rest of the way. Make sure those bikes stay safely on their rack. I really love it because this is kind of the essence of adventure racing. People using their weekends to race, and then sometimes when you have a 24-hour race, you have to drive home on Monday morning because you're too tired on Sunday. And just thank you so much for taking time out of your drive for a quick field report. And we're happy to share it. And
thank you for having us.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.